Hi, it's Miss Pam from the Andes Public Library, and welcome to our story time. It is Wednesday, October 21st, and a beautiful day here in the Catskills, but Halloween is coming. So we have lots of great holiday books here in our library, and I chose a few. Bone Dog by Eric Rohmann, Littlebat's Halloween Story, written by Diane Mayr and illustrated by Gideon Kendall. And a really neat story that I discovered when I was barcoding over the winter and during the pandemic. And it is Virginia Hamilton's Wee Winnie Which is Skinny, an original African-American scare tale. And it's really original and really awesome. So I hope you hang in there for that. Okay, so we're going to start with Bone Dog. I think that might have been the Bone Dog. Ella and Gus had been friends for a long, long time. One night Ella said, "I'm an old dog and won't be around much longer, but no matter what happens, I'll always be with you." For a long while they sat together in the moonlight. Then Ella said, "A promise made under a full moon cannot be broken." By the way, there's going to be a full moon on Halloween this year. After Ella was gone, Gus didn't feel like leaving the house, but he did. He didn't want to do his chores, but he did. And when Halloween came around, Gus didn't feel like trick-or-treating, but he pulled on his costume and trudged out the door. Oh, he's sad without his friend. When the night grew dark and his bag grew heavy, Gus started home. Past the school, around the pond, and through the graveyard, the wind moaned. The clouds swallowed the moon. Gus was surrounded. "Come along now," said a skeleton. "It's Halloween, and you know what that means." "What does it mean?" asked Gus. "Numbskull," snorted another skeleton. "When they all danced and sang out, we shriek and growl, screech and swoon, hiss and howl 'neath the blood-red moon. You know, skeleton stuff." "But I'm not a skeleton," Gus said. "I'm a boy." "A boy? And he's alive! And you know what that means? Bon appetit!" They lunged at Gus. "You got guts, kid, but not for long." Just then the wind calmed and the moon broke shimmering from the clouds. The skeletons whirled. "Ella!" cried Gus. "A bone dog?" cried the skeletons. "Is that all you got? Well, tickle my ribs. Why would we be afraid of a bone dog?" Ella barked and growled. It gave Gus an idea. He joined in barking and growling, together with all their might, and at the top of their voices, boy and dog howled into the night. "Ow!" A moment later, an answer came from the distance. The skeletons stopped dead in their tracks. "Oof! Dogs? Real live dogs?" Those skeletons are ski-daddling. And here come all the dogs. Dogs like bones. Oh, yes. Afterwards, Gus and Ella sat together in the moonlight. Gus asked, "Will I see you again?" "A promise made under a full moon cannot be broken," said Ella. With that, she disappeared into the night. And Gus picked up his bag and headed for home. The end. All right. Littlebat's Halloween Story, written by Diane Mayr and illustrated by Gideon Kendall. All right. Ooh, look at these nice illustrations. The sky was beginning to brighten with the red-orange glow of spring dawn. Littlebat and his mother flew home to the library attic to roost. It reminds me of our library. All along the attic walls, bats took hold with their feet and clawed thumbs, wrapped their wings around the bodies, and settled down to sleep. Mother Bat found a spot close to the attic floor. Little Bat took a long, deep breath and leaned against his mother. He closed his eyes. Suddenly, Little Bat woke up. Sounds of laughter were coming from a small hole. Carefully, he stuck his head through and peeked down. The room was full of children. Then it became quiet. A woman began. A little girl with golden hair was walking through the woods. Little Bat was fascinated. He listened intently until the end. And after that, the three bears never forgot to lock their door again. Sighing with pleasure, Little Bat crawled back to Mother Bat and fell asleep. That night, Little Bat said to his mother, "I saw people below. What do they do there?" "They read," said Mother Bat. "Read?" "Yes, they look in books and find stories." "I heard one about the three bears," said Little Bat. "It was so good. I wish I'd been closer. I could see the porridge." "Little Bat," his mother said, "you must never get close enough for a look. It's dangerous." "I won't," said Little Bat with a sigh. "I'll just listen." Little Bat spent many mornings listening to stories. One day he heard, "A caterpillar was eating, eating, creeping, creeping, spinning, spinning, sleeping, sleeping." "Shh," the woman whispered. Little Bat inched closer to her. Many days and nights went by. One morning, out came a butterfly! The children shouted. The shout startled Little Bat. What was this butterfly that made the children yell so loud? He had to take a look. He leaned forward a little more. He saw a giant moth. A moth like those he and Mother Bat caught at night. Little Bat became so excited he lost his grip and fell into the room. The children screamed and ran in circles. The woman waved her book at Little Bat to shoo him away. He zoomed back up to the ceiling and scooted through the hole. "Mama, Mama," he squeaked. I don't know what I'd do if we found a bat in the library. I would take it outside. That's what I would do. "What's the matter?" his mother asked. Little Bat told her what had happened. "I was so frightened, Mama." "Oh, Little Bat, are you hurt?" "No, Mama, I'm okay, but I would like to see the pictures up close." "No," said his mother. "Never?" asked Little Bat. Mother Bat stared into the room below. "Well, maybe there's a time when it can be done," she said. "You must wait for changes." "Changes?" "You'll see." Summer was coming. The nights grew shorter, but the bats were busier. There were thousands of mosquitoes, moths, and mayflies to eat each night before flying back into the attic. The busy summer nights were tiring, but Little Bat always stayed awake for the stories. One day while he listened, he looked around the room. Changes! He crawled up to where his mother slept and whispered, "Mama, is it time? Can I go now?" His mother peeked through the hole. "Not yet, Little Bat. Keep looking." That night there were changes all around, but not the right ones. Over the long, hot summer, Little Bat listened and watched. New decorations appeared. The children wore shorts and shoes without socks. Whenever Little Bat saw something different, he asked, "Mama, Mama, is it time?" "Not yet, sweetie. Keep looking." It's still very hot. They're talking about taking a book to the beach. Summer came to an end. The air became cooler, and in the weeks that followed, the children started wearing jackets and sweaters. Once again, the room changed. "Mama." Mother Bat looked. She saw apples. She saw paper leaves of yellow, orange, and red. "Soon, Little Bat, soon," she said. "Fall into a book." With the fall, the nights grew longer again. The bats were not as busy now. Each night there were fewer and fewer insects to catch. In the early morning light, the leaves on the trees blazed red and gold. They were plucked by chilly breezes and tossed to the ground. The bats were slowing down. It was nearly time for their winter sleep. Little Bat crawled to the hole for stories, but now he listened with his eyes closed. He was tired of looking for changes. One day he heard his mother say, "Little Bat, look, it's time." Little Bat opened his eyes. He stretched and looked down into the room. What he saw made his eyes open wide. "Go quietly, Little Bat," Mother whispered. "Have fun." And he did. It's the Halloween story time. By the way, we are going to have Halloween story time on Saturday, Halloween, October 31st, and I will be here at the library from 10 to 12 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And if you want to bring your children, we'll have a special bag of treats and things that has been quarantined already, so they'll be COVID safe. And if you want, I'll read you a story from the porch. So, all right, now on to this awesome treasure I found. Wee Winnie Witch is Skinny, an original African-American scare tale by Virginia Hamilton, engravings by Barry Moser. I love this book. This is a great story. Wee Witches. Wee Winnie Witch is Skinny. There's a jack-o'-lantern and two boys climbing a fence. Carefully, James drew a black cat wearing a pointy hat and riding on a broomstick. I know a lot about witches, I do, James Lee told his brother Will. You better stay away from owls and gnats and cats, too, James Lee warned his little brother. Cats know the most about witches. Uncle Big Anthony said so. They lived next door to Uncle Big Anthony's house. See, Uncle Big Anthony put a gnat in a bottle with the lid on tight, James Lee said, and poof, the gnat was gone. A teeny witch was in there, and woo-woo, an owl hooted and the witch was gone. He grinned at Will. Will shivered. One day, James Lee saw a black cat fall out of the sassafras tree on Uncle Big Anthony. It held on tight. Uncle Big Anthony couldn't shake it off that black cat for anything. He ran. He stopped short. He hollered loud. He slapped at it, but nothing could shake that cat off of him. James Lee tried to sneak up on Uncle Big Anthony to help him. He got close enough to reach for the cat, but the cat arched its back and hissed at him. Its yellow eyes scared him. James Lee ran home to tell his mama. A wee Winnie must be after Uncle Big Anthony, said James Lee, Mama Joe. Wee Winnie was a name she used to make a witch sound small. Stay away from your Uncle Big Anthony for a while, Mama Joe warned James Lee and Will. But James Lee always played where he thought Uncle Big Anthony might walk by. He and Will and a whole bunch of boys sat under the sassy trees, resting from standing on each other's shoulders. They'd been forming a ladder to reach the sky with little Will at the top of it. All of a sudden, here comes Uncle Big Anthony. He looked like he was dragging himself along. Cat claws had torn his shirt. There were mean scratches on his face and neck. Whee, wee, James Lee whispered as Uncle Big Anthony limped on by. Big and jolly Uncle Anthony was looking smaller and sad. There was a scratch in the corner of his mouth where a cat witch Winnie must have tried to bridle him. One crisp night of a full yellow moon, James Lee saw wee Winnie come for Uncle Big Anthony. Uncle Big Anthony had been boxing in the moon glow to keep up his nerve. Wee Winnie Witch came creeping like a cat. She changed from a black cat to a thin witch, and she floated through the back door of Uncle Big Anthony's house. James Lee whispered to Will, Wee Winnie's after our big Uncle Anthony. The wee Winnie slowly turned and looked over at James Lee. She must have heard him. She took off her bald head and swung it from side to side in Big Anthony's window. Her yellow eyes glowed like the triangles in a candlelit pumpkin. James Lee dived under the covers where Will was. They stayed scrunched together all night. The next morning, James Lee followed Mama Joe over to Uncle Big Anthony's house. They found him in the hall closet. He refused to come out. What James Lee could see of his uncle's hair was braided into a bridle. That day and all week long, Uncle Big Anthony stayed home sick. James Lee's Mama Joe sent Uncle Big Anthony sassafras tea and buttermilk biscuits. But weeks passed and his uncle got lean and bent over tired. He looked like some about-gone Uncle Shrunken Anthony. Folks wouldn't pay him respect on Sunday. All of his many children, Sabine, Simon, Simony, Rosie, and all the rest, had left home at the first sight of wee Winnie. One night, Uncle Big Anthony's wife, Aunt Bay Anna, went running over to her Mama Granny's house just down the road. Mama Granny said to her, "You stay right here. I'll be over to your house in a short minute." Mama Granny was a far-seer who could read the future and the past. She could handle any wee Winnie witch. Mama Granny took up her cane and her spice-hot pepper witch-begone potion, and she made her way over to Uncle Big Anthony's. James Lee and Will sat in the dark of their bedroom watching Uncle Big Anthony's house. They could hear him blowing and puffing just like a sheepdog. Then wee Winnie Witch glided in. Mama Granny is almost there. James Lee whispered to Will. She'll put a stop to wee Winnie. Wee Winnie, hurry, Mama Granny. The night fell down dark with a golden moon rising. The wee Winnie was ready for her night ride. In spite of himself, James Lee couldn't wait to see what would happen. Lo and behold, he and Will saw the wee Winnie go inside. "Look," he told Will, "wee Winnie Witch has taken off her skin. She's hanging it up on the wall next to Uncle Big Anthony's overalls." James Lee couldn't believe his eyes. He opened the window to see better. He saw skinless wee Winnie take hold of Uncle Big Anthony in his nightshirt. Then she put the bridle bit in his mouth. She held on to Uncle Big Anthony's braided hair. The witch rode on Uncle Big Anthony's back right out the front door. James Lee saw it all. Will saw nothing. He had his eyes tight shut. Wee Winnie Witch rode Uncle Big Anthony twice around his own house. Then she galloped him over to James Lee's home. Before James Lee could move, wee Winnie snatched him right out of the window. She put him in front of her on Uncle Horse Anthony's back. James Lee held on to Uncle Big Anthony's nightshirt for dear life, and he hollered for his family. "Help, Mama, Papa, help me!" James Lee saw his Mama and Papa and Will run outside. All of the folks came rushing out of their houses, and it seemed like the folks were getting small. Something about that made him grin. When he was way up above the sassy trees, James Lee waved at everybody. The three flyers climbed a night breeze up towards the harvest moon. Uncle Horse Anthony neighed. Wee Winnie Witch cackled and shook the stars. James Lee gazed far below. All of the folks' startled eyes had become like bright sparkles of pumpkin light. And down below, Mama Granny walked inside Uncle Big Anthony's house. She looked all around. "They're gone," a neighbor, Nadell said, following Mama Granny. "Wee Winnie left her skin behind, and she's taken James Lee too." "They'll be back," Mama Granny said. She put down her cane and took the lid off of her hot potion sauce pot. She reached into it now and spooned her spice-hot pepper oil into the wee witch's skin hanging there on the wall. "Let's skedaddle," she told Nadell when she had finished. They got out of there as wee Winnie Witch, Uncle Horse Anthony, and James Lee came into sight. Wee Winnie rode in. Uncle Big Anthony fell on his bed. James Lee hit the wall and hugged it as tight as wallpaper. "I'll be back for both of you in 2 nights, wee Winnie screeched at them. She took her thin skin down and slipped it on. "Hey now," said the witch. "Skin?" She started wiggling and turning in her skin. "Skinny, you feeling all tight? What's wrong with you? Say now." "Peel me off, strip me off," Skinny said in a fizzled voice. Winnie Witch tried taking her skin off, but it was stuck to her. She moaned and shouted, "Skinny, don't you know Big Witch? Get off me. Don't you know me, Skinny?" That Skinny was so peppery hot it couldn't talk anymore. It squeezed and squeezed until it took wee Winnie's breath right out of her. It shriveled her up. She fell to pieces on the floor. Now the wee Winnie was no more than a bunch of dried up skinny leftovers. James Lee saw it all. He tore himself from the wall and ran out of there. He couldn't wait to tell Will and everybody. And that was how Uncle Big Anthony and James Lee got free of wee Winnie Witch. Mama Granny sure did the job. "What do you think of that?" James Lee asked Will. "I don't much care for witches," Will said. "I don't believe in them much either. You probably were dreaming." But he made James Lee keep their bedroom window closed on nights of the harvest moon. Mama Granny sprinkled secret potion water around the house for 7 days. She chanted 7 times, "Remove yourself from here, remove yourself from here." She and Mama Joe swept up the dry scraps of wee Winnie Witch's skinny. They burned them in the fireplace and let the smoke carry the ashes away. James Lee sat with Uncle Big Anthony until Aunt Bee Anna and the children came home. Uncle Big Anthony went back to work the next day. "He's the best Uncle Big Anthony, just like always," James Lee told Will. "He'll be his own self in no time." Uncle Big Anthony grew stronger each day. There was only one thing that stayed different about him. He always carried a fly swatter. He smacked his back with it whenever he passed along the sassy trees. That's how James Lee knew when Uncle Big Anthony was coming. "You can hear him splat swatting with the fly swatter," said James Lee, "in case of black cats." "Is that the truth?" asked Will. "I would think he'd rather swat flies." "I wouldn't lie," James Lee said. "Don't you think?" He told everybody about his night air ride on the back of Uncle Big Anthony. His Uncle Big Anthony said he didn't remember a thing. Still, James Lee told about wee Winnie Witch's skinny to all the folks. "I don't ever want to see a skinny again," James Lee told them. "But that night air ride up to the twinkling stars, whee-wee!" His face lit up like moon glow. Folks begged James Lee to tell the whole story again, 100 times, and every Halloween James Lee did. The wee Winnie Witch's skinny. So that's our stories for today. I hope you enjoyed them, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week with more Halloween tales. Take care. Bye.